What's going on, everybody? It's Bogo Sports here, and I'm coming to you with my Week 6 NFL awards, winners, losers, and more. And to start this one off, we're going to try something different. I've been doing my storyline of the week at the very end, but I'm going to start with it at the beginning this time and see if that fits better. Because a lot of times I basically cover what the storyline is throughout the video, and then it's kind of pointless to have it at the end. So we'll start with storyline this week. And my storyline is Lions roar, move to 5-1. They put on a great performance against the Buccaneers, won 20-6. And this team is proving more and more to us that they're not just a hyped up team from the offseason and that they are really here to compete this season. The vibes around the team are amazing. With Dan Campbell leading the way, I find myself just sitting here watching clips of him in the locker room and giving his speeches throughout the game and mic'd up moments. I am really a fan of Dan Campbell. I'm a fan of the way the Lions are run as an organization. I'm a big fan of Jared Goff. And for all these reasons, I think they are definitely the storyline of the week. I thought about maybe putting the Niners in here, but I had them as, excuse me, I got to get a notification out of the way. I had them as 49ers struck gold, Super Bowl or bust last week, so I think it would have been kind of wrong to overreact this week, especially with some of their injuries. So I went with the Lions. They have just looked really, really good this season. They lost one game in a shootout to the Seahawks, and similar thing happened last year. So I'm not going to hold that against them. They look like they're real competitors in the NFC, and in a time when we were really just saying it's the Niners, Eagles, and then you could even throw the Cowboys in there, I personally excluded the Lions, thinking, well, they're not really legitimate yet. Can't really put them in that realm yet, but they're week by week forcing themselves into that conversation. Okay, we'll move now to the weekly awards. Offensive Player of the Week, I went with Tyreek Hill. He had another monster performance. I think he had like 160-something yards and a touchdown. He did a freaking backflip with the iPhone in his hand. This guy's just lighting it up. I think he has over 800 yards, and I'll get into that later, but this guy's crazy. And honorable mentions, Jared Goff had a great week, like I just mentioned with the Lions. He threw for over 350 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And Cooper Kupp also had a big receiving week. He's come back and immediately basically picked up where he left off and it's just dominating. So that guy's super fun to watch. Defensive Player of the Week, this one was super hard because nobody really stood out. There weren't any huge sack guys. I think like Danielle Hunter had 2.5 sacks. I went with Bobby Okereke from the Giants. They actually kind of stifled the Bills for a lot of that game. I think he had about 12 or so tackles. I could be off on that, but he had about 12 or so tackles, a couple tackles for loss or no gain, and then he had a forced fumble as well. So I'm going to give him Defensive Player of the Week, but like I said, probably the weakest singular defensive performance week, if that makes sense to you guys. There's been a lot more standouts in prior weeks. Offensive Rookie of the Week, similar, nothing crazy. I feel like I could have gone to Stroud here because they beat the Saints, but I went with Michael Mayer for the tight end for the Oakland Raiders. This guy from Notre Dame, a lot of hype around him. Definitely considered one of the top tight ends of this class, especially given his draft position. And he had his first real good week. I think he had 75 receiving yards, 5 or so catches. So he's on Offensive Rookie of the Week. And then Defensive Rookie of the Week, Devon Witherspoon. He was kind of hyped up with the Chase conversation of like, could he lock him down before the week? And he did very well. I think he only allowed like 34 receiving yards this week. And it was a close game that was really dominated more by the defenses than the offenses, which I didn't necessarily expect. So I'm going to give him the awards. But overall, aside from Tyreek, this is not one of the stronger weekly awards. I think it might be the weakest of the season so far. Okay, let's move to yearly awards. If you guys haven't seen this before, this is where I'm saying, hey, if the season ended today, who would I give this award to? We'll start with the most important one, MVP. And it was Tua early. I've been with Josh Allen the last couple of weeks, but I have mentioned it's very up in the air. And I kind of had it as a 2-horse race between Allen and Tua so far. I gave the edge to Allen because they whooped up on the Dolphins when they played. I'm going to give it to Tua here. The Bills haven't had great weeks the last 2 weeks, and Tua, though there was a little bit of a blip there in that Bills game, and then the week after didn't perform great. I think he threw a couple interceptions, but now granted they played the Panthers this week, but the Dolphins just got right back to it, and Tua threw for over 300 yards, multiple touchdowns. So I'm going to give him the lead in the MVP discussion. Honorable mentions, like I said, Allen. I've still got Purdy in there, even though he had a bad week. Mahomes is kind of just lurking, waiting to break out and just remind everybody that he should be the MVP. And then I had Hurts as an honorable mention last week. I'm going to take him out because he has not been tremendous this season. Certainly not how he was last year. And I'm going to insert Goff into the honorable mentions list. So Still very much up in the air, but I'm going to give the award to Tua if we had to end the week now. Offense or end the season now and give out the awards. Offensive player of the week, player of the year, excuse me. Another Dolphin, Tyreek Hill. I've had Christian McCaffrey as the leader and Tyreek very close second. But McCaffrey hasn't been absolutely spectacular the last couple of weeks, and last week he got hurt, so that definitely stunted his opportunity for a breakout performance. And Tyreek has been going off the last couple of weeks. He made up some ground last week, and this week he surpassed McCaffrey in my opinion. So he's got the lead, and if McCaffrey misses a game this Monday night, the lead could grow larger. So Tyreek Hill, like I said, he has over 800 yards through 5 games. That's just absurd. I'm pretty sure he's on pace for 2,000, which is what he's been talking about wanting. So this guy is just, he is so fun to watch, and I really, it's so cool to see how his career has gone and just putting up astronomical numbers, and the eye test checks out with this guy. He's one of the best receivers I've ever seen in my lifetime. Defensive player of the year, I'm going to stick with TJ Watt here. I think Danielle Hunter tied him with 8 sacks and Khalil Mack's close behind, but I'm still going to go with Watt. He has looked like the most dominant defensive player, certainly the most dominant edge rusher this season, so I'm going to give it to him. Offensive rookie of the year, Stroud, Puka, and Devon Achane were my guys. Bijan maybe 4, but I think with Achane being hurt and Nakua having a quieter week, and Kupp starting to really come on as the one, which was completely expected, I'm going to give it to Stroud, especially after getting a win against the Saints. I think ultimately this is going to be his award, especially because it's just such a quarterback-driven league, but I think now I feel justified to say, hey, okay, Stroud is in the lead. Defensive Rookie of the Year, no change here. Even though Witherspoon's played well and Carter hasn't been jumping out of the box scores, I'm still going to give it to Jalen Carter, the Philadelphia Eagles. So to recap, MVP Tua, Offensive Player of the Year Tyreek, Defensive Player of the Year TJ Watt, Offensive Rookie of the Year CJ Stroud, and Defensive Rookie of the Year Jalen Carter. Okay, we'll get into the winners and losers now. We'll start with the winners. My first winner are the Cleveland Browns. They dominated defensively in this game, and once the injuries to Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey happened, it only compounded. Purdy looked absolutely human without some of his top weapons, but I think the injuries are certainly to blame for the performance that the Niners put on. But you have to give credit to that defense led by Jim Schwartz, who I think is now 8-1 against Kyle Shanahan, something around there. The Browns, without Deshaun Watson, are staying alive, and they just beat the best team in the NFL, in my opinion, so they have to be a winner. Next winner, the New York Jets. They're 3-3. Though Zach Wilson hasn't looked like he did in that one Sunday night game against the Chiefs, he's been good enough, and they just got a huge win against the Eagles. They forced interceptions. They played tough physical defense. I think Saleh really gets those guys ready to play. Big winner, Jets this week. Next winner, Cowboys. They were a loser last week, definitely after getting dominated by the 49ers, and they bounced back on Monday Night Football, got a really good win against the Chargers. Dak looked the best I've seen him play in a while, so shout out to the Cowboys, they're a winner. Lions a winner. They were the headline. They are 5-1, and they're looking awesome. And my last winner is the Cincinnati Bengals. This team started dreadfully, and though the offense really hasn't gotten going consistently yet, defensively, Lou Anarumo, we've seen the last couple of years how he's really done a great job against some of the top quarterbacks, but I think just in general now, he's really cementing himself as one of the top defensive coordinators. And like I said, that game was really won by defense, in my opinion. So my 5 winners, Browns, Jets, Cowboys, Lions, and Bengals. And then we'll get to finish off here with the losers. I have the Texans down here. I think I meant to write the Saints. The Texans certainly weren't losers. They won. I think I wrote Saints because they've had, on paper, they had the easiest schedule heading into the season, and they're 3-3 right now. The Carr injury certainly kind of threw a wrench in some of their plans after the first couple of weeks, but overall, I picked the Saints to win the division, and they haven't looked great yet. Now, they've benefited this week from the fact that the Falcons lost. Ritter looked terrible, so I guess maybe I could throw the Falcons on here as well, and the Buccaneers lost. Maybe I should just say the NFC South as a loser here. But overall, the Saints, I expected a little bit more. I can understand an adjustment period, especially with the new quarterback, not having Kamara for the first couple of weeks, but they have got to get going, in my opinion. Next loser are the New York Giants. They just look terrible. Now, Daniel Jones didn't play. They actually made it somewhat competitive against the Bills, but things just seem like they're unraveling. Dayball, who I was super high on after last year, he really carried that team to the playoffs with his coaching, in my opinion. He really got Daniel Jones right. They played tough defensively. They had a really tough mindset. And this season, things are just, like I said, unraveling. 49ers losers, mainly because of injury. I think we saw what happens when some of their top weapons are out. And this would happen to any quarterback, basically besides Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. But even Josh Allen, if he didn't have Stephon Diggs, he would struggle. This is not an indictment on Purdy. A lot of people are going to use this because it's been a debate recently about, is Purdy actually good or is he just getting carried by his players? In my opinion, this loss is not evidence that Purdy's not good. It's evidence that a football team is worse when their best weapons get hurt. And so the Niners, it doesn't look like any of the injuries are serious. Debo and McCaffrey could play, but we saw what it looks like when they go up against a really stout defense and they don't have some of their best players. So I think we've all been saying it. As long as the Niners stay healthy, they're going to be great, but they need to stay healthy. And they have guys that can be injured and have had injury histories before. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that they stay healthy because they're so fun to watch. Next loser is the Tennessee Titans. They put up a good fight in the second half against the Baltimore Ravens. I also kind of have them as losers here because of injury, but also they're standing in the division. The Colts look like they're falling back to earth, especially with Gardner Minshew in there, and then especially given the fact that now Anthony Richardson's out for the season. The Colts will be scrappy, though. Texans look clear. I mean, they're very good. They're 3-3. They're not going to be an easy out in that division, and they are currently ahead of the Titans. And then with the Jaguars, they're looking very hot right now. So the Jaguars lead that division. So the Titans, 2-4. That's my first reason why they're a loser. They're slipping in the division, and they're gonna have to get going quickly if they want to be winning that division. I don't think there's gonna be a wild card team coming out of the AFC South. But then the second thing is that Ryan Tannehill got injured. He ended up having to get carted off. He was able to walk off on his own will after an ankle injury, but then he ended up getting carted to the other locker room. If Malik Willis is their quarterback, and he didn't look absolutely terrible when he was out there, he just kind of looked like a deer in the headlights at times with the pass rush. If Ryan Tannehill is out for an extended period of time, they are in some trouble. And the last loser it pains me to say is the Arizona Cardinals. They really competed the first couple of weeks, even though they weren't getting wins. But it seems like we're falling back down to earth with Josh Dobbs as our quarterback, and just a lack of talent is really kind of killing us. This team's still playing hard, but we've seen a theme where in the second half we start to fall apart, and that was evident again this week against the Rams. They really took over in the second half. Kyler Murray did just get activated, so he will be back soon. If you guys don't know, I'm not a big Kyler Murray fan, but I have been getting a feeling recently like, okay, I know I hate on Kyler a lot, and Josh Dobbs has been impressive in my opinion, but there's a likelihood that Kyler's going to come back and look way better. So that's a positive, potentially. But overall, this team, I think the optics have been a lot better than the record shows, but we are 1-5, and things have been looking a little bit worse the last couple weeks. Second half against the Bengals, and then second half this week against the Rams. So I have the Cardinals as losers because they are looking more like the team I expected them to look like at the beginning of the season. And if they didn't play so well at the beginning of the year, I wouldn't have them on this list because, like I said, I expected this. But they kind of raised my expectations through the first 4 weeks. So that's why I have them on this list. But they could have been switched out with a couple other teams. So just to run through that one more time, my losers are the Saints, but also basically just the whole NFC South. Giants, 49ers, Titans, and Cardinals. So there you go. That's my Week 6 NFL recap. My awards, winners, losers, and more, as I call it. Let me know what you guys think of my picks. Let me know what you guys think of my yearly awards as they stand right now. And keep an eye out for our YouTube short about my prediction for the Thursday night game, which is the Jaguars versus Saints. This is a tough one because I'm all in on the Jaguars, but if I want my Saints prediction division-winning prediction to hit, this might be a must-win for that to happen. No, it's not going to be a must-win. That division's going to come down to the wire, but keep an eye out for that. And other than that, I'm out. Peace.